Good morning to you all. It's very nice looking and seeing who's joining. I see many friends, and it always feels good to be with you like this. I really get the sense that we're sitting in the same room together, even though we're only looking at each other in two dimensions. Still, it just feels good to be with you all. So today is May 28th. So it is the day after our Gurudev, Paramahamsa Hariharananda's birthday. Today is the last day of the birthday program going on at our Florida ashram. And my talk today is going to link with what's been going on down at the ashram for the last several days in this program. So since this day, this talk is centered on our beloved Gurudev, let us start with a chant to the Guru and a prayer. So if we could all please close our eyes. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Saksat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I humbly bow to my Gurudev, Paramahamsa Hariharananda. I humbly bow to my Guruji, Paramahamsa Pragyanananda. I humbly bow to our line of Kriya Yoga masters. I humbly bow to saints and sages of all religions. I humbly bow to all the divine incarnations in every place and in every time. I humbly bow to the people of the whole world and especially to each one of you. And I humbly bow to God, God who is our Heavenly Father, our Divine Mother, our closest friend, our innermost self. Lord, thank you for bringing us all together today in this way. Help us all to receive your love, to give our love to you, to live in thy presence in every step of our lives. Om, amen. So as I mentioned, today's the concluding day of Gurudev's birthday celebration at our Florida ashram. And the theme of the ashram is based off the title of a new book that our Guruji Pragyanananda created for the recent opening of the temple that was constructed on the birthplace of Hariharananda. So this little booklet is called Glimpses of a Divine Life. And this is the title of the program that's been going on at the ashram. There's a second book that our Guruji also produced at the same time. And I know that the people who were in attendance at the opening of this temple in India received as gifts both this book, Glimpses of a Divine Life, and also this book, Our Beloved Gurudev, A Humble Tribute. So what I'd like to do today is we're going along with the theme of the retreat, and the teachers who spoke at the retreat were asked to speak on certain words that were inspired by sections of this book. And I'm going to talk about the word inspiration. But I'm also going to refer to this second book quite a bit because there are some beautiful quotes in here related to what I'm going to talk about that I want to say precisely word for word, because they are words directly from Gurudev's mouth. And so I made little notes, and typically when I give a talk, I don't refer a lot to notes or to a book, but in this instance, I think it's just so beautiful because this new book is tremendous, and the quotes that I want to refer to are, as our theme says, inspirational. And what the heart of our talk is going to be, what I'm going to get to in a little bit. And I thought about this as kind of a nice birthday present that we can all offer to our Gurudev. When our Guruji Pragyanananda speaks, he constantly refers to Hariharananda. He's always reflecting back. My guru said this, my guru was this way. He doesn't put the focus on himself. And I think a nice present to Hariharananda would be to reflect on the people who inspired him in his life, because I know that his love for those people and who he considered his gurus was so deep and so strong that he, as our Guruji Pragyanananda does, would always refer back to his gurus. And so I thought we could honor Hariharananda on his birthday by honoring and thinking and talking about the people who inspired him. So to start with, before we get to the heart of talking about those beautiful people, just a quick thought on what inspiration is and why it's an important thing for us to talk about. I think inspiration is important in our daily lives as well as in our spiritual lives. We all have experienced it, we all know it, and to just kind of bring it to the front of mind for a moment and talk about it, if you think in your daily life, so many things that we do, we were inspired by other people to either pursue those things or to continue at those things or to be better at those things, whether it's the education that we're going through, the career that we're learning, or the career that we're in, whether it's how we pursue and participate in our family life and in our relationships, how we participate in our community and society at large. I think if we spend a little time thinking about it, we can start to bring to mind many, many, many people who have inspired us all in all different aspects of our lives. But particularly in spiritual life, inspiration is a critical thing, because spiritual life can be a little abstract, can be a little hard to get our arms around sometimes. A lot of us, probably most of us, come into spiritual life because of some inner inspiration, something driving us that we don't even realize where it's coming from. I know that was my case, and typically I think the gurus have explained that as this is the call of the soul. The soul inside is giving us some sort of mysterious feeling as to, I need to look into this. I need to pursue religion or spirituality or something. There's something about that aspect of life that I'm being drawn towards. But that inner inspiration needs the nurturing of outer inspiration for most of us. There may be some that are completely 100% self-starters and able to sustain that all the way through. I think that's rare. I think most of us, we need the inspiration of our guru, of our readings of other spiritual masters who we didn't have the opportunity to meet, the company of fellow spiritual seekers, all of these kind of things to inspire us to keep going when maybe sometimes it gets a little difficult, or it gets a little boring, or we get distracted and pulled away by all of our responsibilities in the world, which we all deal with. It's very, very common. And this is our path, especially as Kriya yogis, that we are living in the world, living the family life, the work life, even those who are our monastics and living the ashram life, they have so many things to deal with, so much traveling, so much work, so many things. They even have the world pulling them away sometimes from their sadhana. So the inspiration that we get from our teachers, the books, these days, the beautiful YouTube videos we can watch from all of our great Kriya Yoga teachers and other spiritual teachers. The company, as I said, of our fellow Kriyavans and other spiritual seekers, all of that helps to keep us going, keep us on the road, keeps us from wandering away. Paramahamsa Yogananda said in one of his recorded talks, it was so nice, he said, "Many times I thought to go away, but God always said, 'Come back, little boy, come back.'" Some of you may have heard that recording. And so this is the inspiration that is gifted to us by God in these different forms to help keep us going. Another quick little thing about inspiration for us to think about is the idea of not only how are we being inspired and who's inspiring us, which is, as I said, a nice thing for us to think about a little bit, but also who do we inspire? Who are we inspiring? If you give that a little bit of thought in your own life, who have you helped to inspire either on their spiritual path by supporting them or sharing some teachings or just being a good example? And who in your daily life have you inspired, whether by being a good example of a mother or a father or a good example in the workplace? Give yourself some credit when you have been a good inspiration to others. You know, I think a lot of us fall into the trap, and I know my mind wants to drag me that way, of always thinking, what are we not doing? We haven't done enough. What more should we be doing? Yes, we need to be trying to gently push ourselves forward in our spiritual life and in life in general. But I think many times we become a little too focused on the negative and too harsh on ourselves about what we're not doing, and thinking about the expectations others have on us, and not giving ourselves enough credit for what we've already done, the progress we've already made, and our devotion and our commitment to our spiritual practice, and then as a result, the inspiration that we are sharing with others, both spiritually and in daily life. So just a little food for thought. But to speak of our Gurudev Hariharananda, I could see when I was looking at who was signing on, There are some people here with us today who, like me, had the good fortune of being able to know Hariharananda personally. And I don't have to tell them anything about how he inspired us. I can even feel them all smiling just now. But for those of you who didn't have the opportunity to meet Gurudev, one thing I'll say is you have the opportunity to meet Guruji, and maybe you already have met Pragyanananda, and you definitely feel that same inspiration instantly coming off him. But for us who knew Hariharananda, and speaking of him on his birthday weekend, for me, the moment I laid eyes on him, before I even heard him say a single word, he had completely inspired me. There was no question the moment I saw him, I'm talking the first second that I saw him, that everything in my being, every sense that I had, every intuition I had, every feeling I had, was that he was not an ordinary human being. You could just feel that when you were in his presence. And when you were in his presence, you never wanted to be anywhere else. But then he went on to speak, and his words inspired us so incredibly, and still do to this day. His very unique way of teaching, his unique phrases and words that he used, when he would look at us and say, "You are all children of God, and the marvelous living power of God is remaining within you." And then he would tell us, he would say, "Tie a very tight knot to me, and I will help you to cross the worldly ocean." So many beautiful phrases. He'd say, 1 ounce of practice is worth tons of theories. So beautiful. And one of my favorites that he said, so simple, but to me, if I could live my life with this realization in mind every moment, no matter what I'm doing, and believe me, I'm trying to get there, his expression, "There is no non-God." Contemplate on that for a while. You'll see the meaning of that goes so deep. It just goes down and down and down, how deep that can go. The way he talked, the way he taught, his presence, his entire life just inspired us constantly. They say that a realized being is a walking scripture. And this was Gurudev. He was like a Bible or a Bhagavad Gita that was just walking around talking to you. And his presence, his love, his wisdom, his example just flowed off him every moment. Even in the last words he spoke before his last breath, he was still inspiring everyone. So let me refer to this really nice book that Guruji made, our beloved Gurudev. Let me just read that quote. This is one of the ones I wanted to get exactly perfect. So this is Pragyanananda writing, who was, of course, there with Hariharananda in the hospital before he breathed his last. Pragyanananda writes, his last words on the day of his Mahasamadhi were peace, bliss, love, joy, divinity. Those were his last words. peace, bliss, love, joy, divinity. And then Pragyananda goes on to say, he lived in peace, he manifested bliss, he showered his love, he shared his joy, and he was always merged in divinity. That's pretty inspirational. So to go on to sort of the heart of what I wanted to talk about is the people who inspired Hariharananda on his way to becoming the great God-realized master that we all knew. So I'll go through this, I guess you could say, list of people that I have, knowing that it's nowhere near complete, but just to say that these were some of the people that our Gurudev really loved in life and really learned from and was supported by. And remember, as we're talking about these people, many of them, well, I would say with the exception of his parents, every other person we're going to mention, or I'm going to mention, is a realized soul, an enlightened being, and realize that through Hariharananda, all of us are closely connected to each one of these beings. It's so beautiful how close we are to them through our Gurudev's association with each one of them. So to start with Baba's parents, Nabin Kali Ma and Haripada Baba. Gurudev said about his parents, I want to read this because it was so beautiful. He said about his mother, in my childhood, he said first, my mother was my first guru. In my childhood, she taught me so much about how to love God, how to pray to God. And then about his father, he talked about how his father, when Gurudev was only 4 years old, his father started teaching him the pujas, the rituals, the mantras, began him on his, you could say, formal spiritual life. And then, of course, his parents taught him what our parents taught us: good morality, good behavior, how to live as a good person. And then, of course, the association with his many brothers and sisters. They also inspired him, guided him, helped him. And one of his older brothers and an older brother-in-law are the ones who brought Baba to his first actual spiritual teacher and real guru, Sri Bijoy Krishna. So one of Gurudev's older brothers and a brother-in-law had discovered Bijoy Krishna, who was a householder yogi, and he's described in some of the books I've read as a modern version of one of the ancient rishis. He was a beautiful spiritual teacher, and Gurudev's older brother rather, saw how his younger brother had such a spiritual tendency in him right from the youngest age, that at only 12 years old, he brought him along to meet Sri Bijoy Krishna. And Baba, from then on, was a student of Bijoy Krishna, and he learned many beautiful teachings from him. Let me quote what Gurudev says about him. So this is Hariharananda speaking. He said, Sri Bijoy Krishna's teachings had a strong impact on my life. Bijoy Krishna said, do not think that your body is your body. It is the body of the divine. When you do anything to the body or with the body, love God. Suppose you are massaging oil on your body daily. Before washing it off, feel it is God's presence. Clean your body with love for God. Put on fresh clothes as if you are decorating God. Do not eat, instead, feed God with every morsel of food. Gurudev continued. It was very simple and very practical. The door to the highest spiritual truth is to live in the presence of the omnipresent God. So you can hear echoed in those earliest teachings that Baba received from his first guru in what he was teaching us right up until he left his body. Perceiving the presence of God in everything and in every way, and loving God constantly. So Sri Bijoy Krishna taught Gurudev and apparently brought him to the highest level, gave him the best teachings that he could. And then when the time was right for Baba to move on to higher teachings, to deeper, mysterious wisdom, Sri Bijoy Krishna sent him to Sri Yukteswar. So all of us as Kriyavans are very familiar with Sri Yukteswar. What an incredible spiritual master he was. His deep knowledge, his deep wisdom in not only meditation and yoga, but also in astrology, in science, quite an amazing master. And you can only imagine how inspirational it was, to go back to our theme word, for the young Hariharananda. Of course, that wasn't his name yet. He wasn't yet a Swami, but just to not confuse things by using different names, how inspirational it must have been the first time he went to meet Sri Yukteswar. And as he told us, he peeked into the room and Sri Yukteswar was sitting there alone in Shambhavi Mudra, eyes open meditation. So sitting with eyes raised, total absorption in the inner world. But he sensed that someone had arrived, and Baba said, he lowered his gaze and he looked at me, and then he went back to Shambhavi Mudra, and I took that as my green light to enter the room the rest of the way. And you can only imagine what the feeling we had when we met Hariharananda the first time, or the feeling those of you who, when you met Prajnananda for the first time, Hariharananda must have had that same feeling, meeting such a powerful spiritual presence as Sri Yukteswar for the first time. I'm sure the inspiration started at that moment and never stopped until Sri Yukteswar left his physical body, and even beyond, of course. So in addition to Sri Yukteswar, another very nice person who was in Baba's life for a long, long time that he met because of his association with Sri Yukteswar was the monk who cared for Sri Yukteswar. His name's Swami Narayan Giri, and his nickname was Prabhuji. And Gurudev and Prabhuji had a very long friendship, and as I said at the beginning, I would assume a relationship where they supported each other as spiritual seekers. So then from Sri Yukteswar, Baba's next great inspiration had to be Paramahamsa Yogananda. He was in communication very regularly with Yoganandaji when Yogananda was in the United States, but then got to be with him in person when Yoganandaji made his one trip back to India after he had spent so many years in America. Again, we're all very familiar with Yogananda, so we can easily imagine how inspirational to be in his presence. From Yogananda came Swami Satyananda, was the next big spiritual presence. And of course, a lot of these people in Baba's life were overlapping in some ways, not necessarily segmented exactly one after the other, but just in a manner of speaking. Satyananda came next, and we remember Swami Satyananda, one of our Kriya gurus, was a close friend of Yogananda when they were children, and he remained in India to take care of the schools and the ashrams that were in India when Yogananda went to begin and continue his mission in the West. And Swami Satyananda, there's a very nice quote I wanted to share that Gurudev said about Swami Satyananda. Gurudev said about Swami Satyananda, if one wanted to see humility, simplicity, spirituality, and service integrated into one person, one could find it in my Gurudev, Swami Satyanandaji. So nice. And I know Baba must have been inspired not only from Satyananda's spiritual presence, but also he was known to be a great organizer, a great educator, a very humble person. So many different aspects of life, I'm sure Gurudev saw as an example in Satyananda. So then came Sri Bhupendranath Sanyal, another of our Kriya gurus, a householder yogi, but who also started ashrams. Gurudev had beautiful quote about Bhupendranath Sanyal. He said, I witnessed the spiritual excellence and perfection of Sri Sanyal Mahashaya. His simplicity was rare. He was open with me and did not hesitate to talk about his personal family life. Spirituality makes life simple, humble, and noble. So nice. I mean, this is our great Gurudev, speaking in such amazing terms about those who touched his life. And again, I try to remember that this is our spiritual family too, through Gurudev. So there's a very interesting part of Hariharananda's sadhana where a mysterious yogi appeared to him, physically came to him, to teach him very high techniques, samadhi techniques. And Gurudev talked about this mysterious yogi. He said, truly, he was a powerful guide to reach the ultimate state, helping me and giving me unconditional love without any expectation. But this unique and mysterious yogi never disclosed his identity to me. Such was his greatness. He was truly a great guru in my life. So whoever that was, and whatever those teachings were to bring Gurudev to the final Nirvikalpa Samadhi state, we can just somehow inwardly connect ourselves to that yogi, not even knowing who he was, and pray for his blessings on us as well. So then came Baba's, I don't know how it gets any more inspirational than this, the materialization of Mahavatar Babaji Maharaj inside of Baba's closed room at Karar Ashram. Baba said he was in meditation, and there came a strange bright light, and he opened his eyes, and there, standing inside his closed locked room, was this yogi. He didn't recognize him at first, and only after he vanished did Baba realize, oh, that was Babaji. And he left the room he was in and he ran to his little puja room, closed the door, and he was bowing down and crying and sobbing that Babaji came to me and I didn't recognize him. And again, Babaji appeared in that room and blessed Gurudev and said that he was happy with his sadhana and his spiritual progress. I don't know what could be more inspirational than that. It's astonishing. I wish for every single one of us that we could have that experience. Maybe someday. And that happened, by the way. I made a little note because I wanted to remember to put that into a little perspective chronologically. So that happened in 1949 when our Gurudev was 42 years old. So it just, it's interesting to be able to put it in some sort of historical context. And then the last, well, let me say this before I talk about the last person that I want to say something in particular about. When talking about our connection to these great spiritual masters, something I like to point out that many of you probably already know, but in case someone doesn't, it's very, very interesting because it shows how interwoven our Gurudev is with our particular line of Kriya Yoga masters. So, as we know, there are 6 different stages of Kriya. There is a first Kriya initiation, a second Kriya initiation, third Kriya initiation, like that. As we teach when we're initiating new people, first Kriya is the bulk of the Kriya techniques. The higher Kriyas are some additional techniques, some refinements like that. But there are these 6 stages. Gurudev Hariharananda received his first Kriya initiation from Sri Yukteswar. He received his second Kriya initiation from Paramahamsa Yogananda. He received third Kriya from Swami Satyananda, and he received his 4th, 5th, and 6th Kriyas from Bhupendranath Sanyal. So this is how intimately connected Gurudev is to our line of Kriya Yoga masters. And as I said, Babaji appeared to him, so he had physical contact with Babaji. The only one of our Kriya Yoga lineage that Gurudev did not have physical contact with, just because of when he lived, was of course Lahiri Mahashaya. So Lahiri Baba had, lived much before. We don't know, Gurudev has never told, as far as I know, any sort of connection that he's had with Lahiri Baba, after Lahiri Baba's leaving of his body. But to me, it is always fascinating to see Baba's spiritual journey with our line of Kriya Yoga masters, and to again realize how close that makes us to all of these gurus. So we should always feel that we are theirs and they are ours. Whether they're in the body or not in the body, the realized masters are beyond time and space. So we can have a relationship with any of them or all of them. So one more person to mention that I have a quote from Gurudev about is the Swami who gave Hariharananda his monk's initiation. Swami Bharati Krishna Tirtha. He was the Shankaracharya of Puri at the time. And let me read what Hariharananda said about him. And he was not only a great spiritual teacher, but he was also a highly accomplished mathematician, highly educated, a really brilliant person. So here's what Gurudev had to say about Bharati Krishna Tirtha. He said, he gave me sannyasa initiation, but before giving me the monk's initiation, while he was in Kolkata, he sent a few people to my brother's place to inquire about me. He was very strict and did not want to give the monk's initiation to just anyone. He wanted to learn more about me, about my family, and about my mother who was still alive. After verifying all the facts, he gave me the monk's initiation. He was a great person, and I will always remember him, his wisdom, and his completely devoted life. I have been blessed by having his holy presence in my life. He taught me a lot about monastic life. The name that I have borne for over 40 years is the name given to me by him, Hariharananda. And what's an interesting little tidbit about that monk's initiation, Gurudev and one other person took initiation at that time with him, but in attendance at that monk's initiation was Sri Dayamata, the lovely woman who led self-realization fellowship for many decades after Paramahamsa Yogananda left his body. So another very interesting spiritual personality that Baba had personal acquaintance with. And just to mention a few more, and I'll conclude my, what I'm talking about, we'll meditate for just a few minutes. Baba had spiritual association, I shouldn't say spiritual, he had personal first-hand meetings and association with other people who many of you will know their names, and sometimes people are surprised that, wow, Hariharananda knew this person too. So some of those are, we know, many of you will know that he was beloved by the great woman saint of India, Anandamoyi Ma. So much love between the two of them. And she is one of the most loved saints of India. I can only imagine, talking again about the topic word, the inspiration Gurudev must have received, having someone who was just basically, from my understanding, just this glowing presence of God in a human body, just showering him with love. I mean, how inspiring must that have been? Also, Sitaram Das Omkarnath, he was, you could say, kind of a distant cousin of Gurudev's, but he was also a very well-known, realized monk of that time. Gurudev also had personal acquaintance of Ramana Maharshi, of Neem Karoli Baba, the guru of Ramdas, of Swami Muktananda, who many people in the West know. He was a very popular guru in the West in the 60s and 70s. Swami Shivananda, founder of Divine Life Society. Quite amazing. And this is just, you could say the biggest names. He also had association with many monks of the Ramakrishna order. I'm sure countless other sadhus and yogis and holy people, fellow disciples of Sri Yukteswar, people like that. So the inspiration that he must have received from all these people, but then the door swings both ways, because then he inspired so many others, where some of these great people would then send people to Hariharananda for initiation and for spiritual instruction. So inspiration in our lives, in Hariharananda's life, and the life of all spiritual seekers is an important thing to consider. We're about out of time, but I'd like to just have a 5-minute meditation as a gift to Baba, to meditate for a few moments on these people, on these beings who were so important in his life. So let us sit with the eyes closed. Sit comfortably. Allow the body to be a little more relaxed. Try to let the mind be at peace. No need for many thoughts to be running. With love, we're thinking of our Gurudev, Paramahamsa Baba Hariharananda Ji, on this his birthday weekend. Baba, we offer our love to you. We thank you for your blessings. Please allow us for a moment to meditate on your loved ones. Please bring your attention a little more into the soul center. Meditating in the soul center, 2 or 3 inches deep inside the head from the midpoint of the eyebrows. There in the soul center, we're lovingly thinking of our Gurudev's parents, Sri Bijoy Krishna, Sri Yukteswar Ji, Sri Sanya Mahashaya, Swami Satyananda Ji, Paramahamsa Yogananda Ji, Babaji Maharaj, the mysterious unknown yogi, we'll also include our beautiful father of Kriya Yoga, Lahiri Mahashaya, our own beloved Guruji, Pragyanananda, Babaji Maharaj, Ananda Mohima, Sitaram Dasomkarnath, Brahmana Maharshi, Neem Karoli Baba, Swami Muktananda, Swami Sivananda, all those divine beings who blessed our Gurudev with inspiration and teachings on his spiritual journey. Gurudev, we are sending our love to those that you loved. So we're abiding in the soul center, meditating on those beautiful divine people, including our Gurudev. The soul center is the place known as Saguna Brahman, the place of God with form. So God is manifesting in the human forms of these divine beings so that we may connect in a way that's easier for us to do. But now we want to rise up to the place of Nirguna Brahman, the place of God without form. So we pray to Gurudev, to all the divine beings that we were just speaking of and meditating on, to please help us, lift us from the soul center, rising to the God center in the top of the head. O Gurudev, O Guruji, O line of gurus, O spiritual masters, please lift us into the fontanelle, into the place of God without form, where we all merge into the one, where we melt into that place where there is no longer any separateness. Just union, love, and perfection. Nothing more to do, just be in that place. No more doing, no more trying, just being. So please come back to a little bit of body consciousness. And know that the same living presence of God, as Gurudev would tell us, the same one consciousness is manifesting as you, as was manifesting as all these divine people that we were speaking of. So try to live in awareness of that dimension of your being. And I wish the blessings of God and Gurus upon each one of you. I bow to you all. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.